Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. If you want to turn your cameras on, super appreciate that. If you don't want to, or you can't for any reason, that is also just fine. I am going to share my screen and just open us with a few things. So welcome to this update on the Estevan Park encampment sweep and the Splinters response. We really appreciate you being here. Sorry, my kids are being very loud. I just wanted to begin with a little gratitude and grounding and land and labor acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are living on the colonized and occupied lands of the Tohono O'odham, Pasquayaqui, Yoemi, and Hokum people. Colonization is more than just settler colonialism. It is resource extraction, including culture and knowledge, land use, political dependency, and so much more. We acknowledge that non-native folks to this land actively benefit from the exploitation of colonization. We acknowledge that colonization is not over, and fighting its effects means continued learning, unlearning, and defending the rights of all people to housing, safety, and having their basic needs met. We acknowledge the extractive practices that mine rare earth to create the computers and technology that allow us to meet in this virtual space, while those on the other side of the digital divide do not have this type of access. We acknowledge the impact on people and planet that this causes. We express gratitude for the ancestors who came before, for the labor of the working class that built the cities and homes in which we live, and the inherent knowledge of community. I just wanted to kind of ground us into this space. So just kind of like find your shoulders, find your hips, find your body, let your day go, and settle in to the space, find your sit bones if you're sitting. And just think about setting an intention for tonight, whether that's empathy, compassion, listening with an open heart, patience, speaking honestly, bravely, any of these things. And let's just all take a breath together. So when we get started, if you can update your Zoom participant name, you just click down on participants and you update your name to include the name you would like to use for you today, the pronouns you'd like us to use for you today. And if someone chooses to opt out of pronouns, try and use their name instead. If you are unfamiliar with the practice of sharing pronouns, there's a little link here and I will drop it into the chat or maybe in a little bit, and what neighborhood or ward that you're in. I'll also share a link to this presentation later. Fafs, will you read an invitation to brave space, please?
Yeah, thank you, Nat. An invitation to brave space. Together, we will create brave space because there's no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we all have caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world, to amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and to continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side.
Thank you very much. Dania, are you willing to read this one?
Sure. An invitation to accountable space. Together, we will create accountable space because we cannot always be brave or expect bravery from those of us who must practice it every day just to exist in the real world. We seek honesty, clarity, and generosity when we call each other towards hard truths. We speak to listen with depth and integrity. We seek to respond with empathy and intention. This will not be easy. This space will not always be comfortable, but it will be our accountable space together, and we will work on it side by side. By Nat.
So I just wanted to give a little background on the Zoom, oh, sorry, the other Zoom from your email earlier today still is, shoot. Well, a lot of people found this one. Thanks, Ray. I just want to give a little background about me and about Splinter so that you all know. Again, I'll drop this link to the presentation in the chat. There's a bunch of links to me, to Splinter Collective. I'm the founder and executive director of Splinter Collective and the co-founder of Justice Movement, which is Dania, my colleague, is here also, which is an intersectional social justice consulting and education thing that we do. We teach a lot of courses online. So I just wanted to give a little background about Splinter. Splinter has a long history. It's actually been, it's a 100-plus-year-old warehouse. It's the largest Adobe structure that's still standing in Tucson. And it has, you know, it started out as a warehouse to store farm equipment and kind of evolved over the years, and then became a place for artists in the 60s, and has kind of fallen in and out of the hands of artists all ever since. So it has a long history as a place involved in community and making. I moved in here 12 years ago, and another interesting thing about this building is that prior to me, it was owned by two women consecutively, which is highly unusual in terms of commercial properties, commercial real estate, things like that. So it has a really interesting history as a building, as a structure itself. And when I moved in here, I was just a renter for over a decade. But I always had this dream of buying this space because it was not being activated. It was not being, the courtyard and performance and event space wasn't being used. And it was just really heartbreaking to me. Everything I wanted to do here, I just felt like I knew that I could make something beautiful, and I wasn't allowed to do it because my landlord would not let me. So we negotiated for many, many years, and then that's a very long story of how it ended up happening. But I was able to finally purchase the building, and did that in January of 2020. And I think a lot about housing justice. I think a lot about gentrification. I think a lot about neighborhoods and healthy communities and all these kinds of things. And so when about the building, it really gave me this, changed everything. You know, you change class suddenly completely, and you're like, oh, damn. So I really was thinking deeply about my responsibility to the neighborhood, my relationship to the neighborhood, my relationship to my houseless neighbors, and all of that. And then COVID hit. So COVID is happening, and the city locks the public bathrooms, and I'm thinking about what is my role here, running this building, being here in space. And that is sort of how we get to step 2. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. In terms of my own background, I've never been houseless. I have been experienced housing insecurity. I'm also a sex worker since I was 19 years old. I'm a high school dropout. I have done everything I've done in some pretty unconventional ways. And I've also been an IV drug user for a long time in my 20s. So I know the worlds of addiction and sex work and survival sex, and a lot of the things that are issues for folks who are in unstable housing and living outside. So that's kind of my relationship to some of this stuff. And yeah, before we go on, I wanted to do a little check-in. So we're just going to do a quick check-in. Name and pronouns if you choose to, what neighborhood you're in or where you're calling in from if you're not here in Tucson, and if you represent an organization or group of any kind. All right. And usually the way we do it is somebody starts, and then I guess we'll just popcorn it. Hopefully that'll work. Maybe I'll just call people out. Fafs, you go.
Thanks, Nat. My name is Fafs. I use they, them pronouns, and I live in the Dunbar Spring neighborhood. I live with Nat at the Splinter Collective. Can I call on people? Okay. I'm going to call on everybody from here. So next would be Hassan Clement.
Hassan Clement, Amplified Neighborhood Association. Danielle, please.
Thanks, Hassan. My name is Dania. I use she, her pronouns. As Nat said, I work at Justice Movement with Nat, And I'm also on the steering committee of the Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice. And one of the things we do is the Allyship and Housing Justice course. Kathleen, would you like to go?
I would be happy to. Kathleen, she, her pronouns. I live in the Amphi School District. Okay. Duchess.
Hi, I'm Duchess, and I am from No Man's Land, supported by and work with the Splinter Collectives. Okay, Christopher.
Thank you, Duchess. My name is Christopher, and he, him. And I am a resident of Dunbar Spring, Tucson native, Ward 1, and happy to be here. So, sorry, let's go with Sam.
Hey, I'm Sammy. I'm stuck, unfortunately, in New York City for a bit, but conspiring to try to get back to Tucson. I was in Feldman's for a couple of years before I moved out here. Yeah, I'm losing track of who has and hasn't. Deanna.
I am Deanna. I use she, her, and zero pronouns. I live on the west side of town. I think it's called like the West Frontier Estates. I'm about 10 minutes from Splinter, and I'm a social justice, public health geek. And how about me? I'm going to go over to the next page. Hey, Joanna, you out there?
I am out there. Hi, my name's Joanna. I use she, her, pronouns. And I live here in the Dunbar Spring neighborhood. I don't think I'm representing anybody. Shoot, it's hard for me to see the participants. Sorry, I'm making dinner too. Allison?
Yes, I'm Allison, she, her. I live in the Julia Keene neighborhood, and I am on the board at Splinter. Swalmo. You're muted.
You are muted.
You're muted. Ryder. Ryder, go.
Hey, I'm Ryder, he, they. I live in Ward 3 in the Miracle Manor neighborhood. It's just right on the other side of Grant from Splinter Collective. And I work with Splinter Collective. I'm going to popcorn it to Javi.
Hi, my name is Xavier, or you can call me Savi. I use they, them pronouns. I am in the Ward 1 section of Tucson, specifically Armory Park. And I work with Community on Wheels. All right, just give me a minute. I'm on the phone, so I gotta look at the list. Let's see. Ronnie.
Hi all, I'm Ronnie. I use she, her pronouns. I live in the Oak Flower neighborhood in Ward 3. I'm here supporting with Mass Liberation AZ, which is an abolitionist organization, and the Housing Initiative Project, which is a housing justice organization, and happy to be in community with you all. I'll pass it to, how about Tate?
Hello, I'm Tate. I use he, him pronouns. I live in the Armory Park neighborhood, like kind of between Armory Park and downtown. I mostly work with Community Care Tucson. And I will pass it to Liz.
I think there's two Liz's, but I'll jump in. Sorry, other Liz, you can go next. I'm Liz. I go by she, they, and I'm not part of an organization. I live out in Vale, which I think is Ward 4. Yep, Liz, you can go next.
Well, I'm also Liz. I use she, her pronouns. I live in the Grant Campbell neighborhood, and I work with Community Care Tucson and No Jail Deaths. And I can pass it to Jasmine. You gone?
Thanks, Liz. Hey, y'all. Jasmine Rucker, she and they pronouns. Here representing myself, but I am a Splinter board member as well. Oh, and Samos neighborhood, Ward 3. I will pass it over to Ray.
Hi, my name's Ray Winch. I live in the A Mountain neighborhood and organized with Splinter and the Alliance for Housing Justice. And we'll pass to Vanna D.
My name is Vanna Lewis from the Donna Autumn Nation. Tucson is occupied autumn land. I'm here on behalf of all Indigenous peoples, and my pronouns are she, they, and I'm thankful to be in community with you. Thank you. I'll go ahead and pass it to Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in the Sabino Canyon area. And I'll pass it to Victoria.
My name is Victoria, and I live in Ward 5 off of the highway. And I've been homeless for 3 years, and I'm housed. I'm representing myself. I'm a 4-year self-educated entrepreneur in generational poverty. Who hasn't gone? Somebody raise a hand. She is kneeling Dar. Okay.
Hi, I'm Dar. I also come from generational poverty. I was on the streets in Tucson as a teenager. My dad just passed away after being on the streets since 1976. I live at Grant and Stone neighborhood in Keeling. I don't know, Ray, did you go?
How about TC?
BC checked in the chat. Let's go with Sam. Ward 6.
Hi, I'm Sam. I use she, they pronouns. Yeah, I just moved here about 7-8 months ago, and I'm representing myself. Nice to see you all. How about Pat?
Hello, my name's Pat. I prefer they, them pronouns. I live on the west side in Ward 1. And I think Floor hasn't gone yet. Maybe. Is that right?
Hi all, I'm Flor, pronouns ella, she, her. I work at the Ward 1 office with Councilmember Lynn Santa Cruz, and I'm also here representing myself as community member who has family who was at the camp, and just somebody who's experienced some of the violence that has happened with people staying at camps. And I live in Ward 5 in the Santa Rosa neighborhood. And I'm gonna go with Ruth Ann.
It's Ruth Ann. I use they, them pronouns. And I'm in Jefferson Park. And I will pass to Kristen.
Hi, Kristen. I use she, her pronouns. I've struggled with housing insecurity, but have been able to access resources that others have not, and just feeling a lot of empathy and compassion for what's going on and wanting to see how I can use my luck and privilege to help out. Oh, I have no idea at this point who hasn't gone or checked in the chat. So if that is you, I'm also on my phone, so I'm struggling. But if you want to jump in, please do. While I try to figure that out.
Shadow. Hi, I'm Shadow. They call me Shadow. I'm also from No Man's Land. So yeah. And I'm over here by the Splinter Collective with everybody that's camped out just so they can get an idea of what's going on as well.
Thanks for being there, Shadow.
Of course.
Anna Sorrell.
Hi, my computer was glitching out. My name is Clay Morgan. I'm from Tucson. I live in Dunbar, around the corner from Splinter Collective and No Man's Land. He, him pronouns. And this is Anna Sorrell, and we live together.
And he runs the shop where the tents are.
Yeah. My shop is currently where No Man's Land is located after being evicted from the park. Oh,
Pick somebody.
I came in a little
Keith
late.
Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Keith Bentley. I live in Splinter Collective. I'm on the Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice Steering Committee. Good to see you all, he, him. And I can't see anyone who hasn't gone yet. Maybe Ronnie, did you go?
We're just gonna leave it to people jumping in now because I think, how about Danielle? Did you go? Now it's up to you all since there's so many people. Just jump in if you haven't gone.
Okay, I can go. My name is Danielle. I work over at Caridad Community Kitchen right by Estevan Park. She, her pronouns. Thank you guys for inviting me, and someone else can go next.
I see John McLean.
Hello, everybody. My name is John McLean. I have organized homeless camps and a lot of ways kind of contested a lot of the unhoused and houseless and street regulations that have kind of hurt us that have tried to help the unhoused population for a little over a decade. So I'm certainly excited to hear, the work that you guys have done and share my expertise however I can.
Thanks so much for being here, John. Glad to see you. Who else? Jump in. Hasn't gone.
I can go. Hey, my name is Z. My pronouns are they, them. I work with the City Center for Collaborative Learning at Paulo Freire Freedom School and University, and have been just sort of trying to get donations from that community. Otherwise, just here representing myself. Thanks for this, Nat.
Somebody else who hasn't shared who would like to?
Hi, my name is Neil. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm not really affiliated with any organization, but I did want to be a part of the community and lend my support any way I can.
Awesome. Dania, are you able to make breakout rooms? Okay. Can you?
How many would you like?
I think 5.
Yeah.
Or maybe, actually, maybe more than that. Maybe
How many people in each?
4 to 5.
Okay, we've got 47 on the
9.
call.
Let's make 9.
On it.
Okay. So before we sort of jump into just like the nitty gritty, I think one of the things is, oh, sorry, my camera's off. I didn't realize my other computer loves to crash while I'm leading Zoom meetings. It's a thing. So I had to switch computers. We really prioritize community building and just spending like the little bit of time that it takes to share and get to know each other a little bit, I think is absolutely essential if we're going to care about these things and do this work together and be in this world together. So we're going to go into breakout rooms and I'm going to drop the questions in the chat. It's a pretty quick little conversation, but we do like to have a little bit of a deeper check-in, and these are the questions. So it's just your name and then just a few words about how you're doing today. How's your day going? How you feeling? And where did you grow up? Did your parents and guardians own a home, pay rent, or something else? And what brought you to this meeting and what are you hoping to get out of it?
Can you make me a co-host quick so I have access to those breakouts? And how many minutes would you like the breakouts? Or if you already said that, Nat.
About 10.
10, okay.
So yeah, I mean, or maybe like 8 minutes. So if there's 4 or 5 of you, just a minute or 2 each, a couple minutes for your sharing. Right?
I don't know how to make you a co-host. Can you talk me through it?
Yeah, so go beside my name on the participants, and there should be a more button. And then you should see the option to make co-host.
There you go.
Yeah.
I tried to do it, but you were bossy and became host first, Steph. So.
All right.
And I did give that link in the chat. And if you need it again, I can leave it again, but here are the questions also.
All right, we're good to go when you're ready there.
Let's do it.
Great.
Well, I guess I should have said people can just share in the chat if they can't talk, because there's a few people like that, but
that's okay. How you doing?
Good. I gotta go grab a charger because this computer is now gonna die. My other one just
exploded.
Thing where it crashes, but it just like decided it was thinking. I could hear everyone still, but it was just like it's really weird.
All right, Monica. Monique, sorry, can you hear me?
Sorry, hi.
Hi, did you
Sorry
just
to join late.
That's okay. So we just did introductions, and then I'm going to drop in the chat again the questions we're going through. We're just in a short breakout room. If you'd like, it says, so we're asking folks to, I don't know if you have access to the chat, share their names, a few words on how you're doing, where did you grow up, and did your parents or guardians own a home, pay rent or something else, and what brought you to this meeting and what you're hoping to get out of it. So I just dropped those there, and then people are in groups of 4 to 5. Would you like me to add you to a group?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add you to group.
Thank you.
2.
Hi, Monique.
Hi, Fabs.
There we go.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then Suomo, can you hear me?
Oops, I got booted out of my other room.
Oh,
but we can hear you and see you now.
Fixed it.
Do you remember which number room you were in?
I was in 2.
2? Okay, I'm gonna
Thank
add you back there. There you go.
I'm gonna go join one.
Yeah, thanks.
Do it.
I wanted to join one too, but I actually kind of need to. I want to pull some stuff together.
I was gonna.
I don't know. I didn't really.
I'll jump in. I'm Liz. I forget the questions. Oh, I grew up in Tucson most of my life, since I was 10. Before then, I was in Iowa and Utah, and my parents rented up until we moved here. So most of my life, growing up, my parents owned a house. And yeah, I'm here for the same reasons as Ruth Ann, just kind of want to know what the needs are, how folks are doing, what I can do to assist and help out.
I'm Deanna, and on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is like things are really bad. 10 is like I can't believe this is like all this is so good. So my life satisfaction score today is probably about a 7.5 to 8 today. So that feels good. I have spent the majority of my life in Tucson. And my childhood, I grew up in New England. I've had the experience, not that I have any, actually there's trauma around it, is I'm a boomer. So my mom's white, my father's black. And so in the 60s, when my parents divorced and a white woman had 3 brown kids with a father who wasn't helping to support the family, my mom was living on a couch of her best friend's parents' house. And my mom had to put us in separate places so that we could be cared for. And then when my mom remarried, we changed socioeconomic status and then lived in homes, single family residences. And as an adult living here in Tucson, which I now call home, I'm drawn to this work for a number of reasons. I'm passionate about public health, social justice, and having my intersections of identity affected in so many ways in my 6 decades on this planet, racism, and with the privilege that I've had in access to education, using my skills and finding out what's being done on the grassroots level in our community to come up with more effective and efficient solutions, because the things that we have been doing are not working because we still have these problems. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. I'm Fafs. Today, I'm doing well. My body feels good, and yeah, I feel present. I come from a family that has always been stably housed and has owned homes for most of my life. My parents have, and they also come from families in Kansas City that owned homes. And my grandfather was a judge, so that was like a very prestigious family also. And my dad's side are immigrants from Germany and participated in homestead stealing of land in Kansas, and that's part of where my family's wealth comes from. And I'm here to learn about other people's experience and what their experience of this housing crisis is, and see how I can contribute. And I live here at the Splinter Collective, and I also have begun recently working with the city and have worked in the planning development services. So I am looking at why it's taking so long for housing to get built.
So that was everyone. So do we just head back to the main room now?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks everyone for checking in this more personal space.
I don't think we can actually, if you hit leave, I think it makes you leave the entire meeting.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'll check in with
Right?
Nat about that.
So I think you have to hang out. But maybe not.
Hang out here a second. I'll be back.
Yeah, there's some repetition in there.
Maybe just the first one. Hi, Fast. How's it going? You're on mute.
Oh,
Sorry, it went great. We were all finished. I guess we ended quick. Yeah.
I think we're close to done.
Okay.
I can't see the time because I'm not a host anymore.
it is. Do you want me to? I think I can make you a co-host, Nat.
Yeah,
Would you
that'd be
like that? Oh, it doesn't look like I can. Fabs, can you make Nat a co-host?
You bet. I just learned how to do that.
Sweet. And you're rocking it. Okay, 35 seconds left. Okay, folks, come back in 7 seconds or sooner.
All right. Getting people back. All right, so I'm just gonna, how was that? I hope that was nice. Did you meet some new friends? Okay. I am just gonna talk at you for a little minute and then open it up for questions if there are questions that I don't answer. So I wanted to give a little bit of context and background. I think most of you know, but just so you understand. So I was sort of talking a little bit about how purchasing a building and being in a neighborhood and thinking about gentrification and our place in space and what does it even mean to own property were all questions in my mind when I purchased this space, which I was working really hard to do for a long time. And then when COVID hit, the city locked all the public bathrooms. And so in the middle of a pandemic, no one had anywhere to go to the bathroom or wash their hands. And so Fafs and Keith and other people, we all kind of just were like kicking around all of these ideas of what is going on. And we were watching numbers of houseless people rise, although it was interesting because early in COVID, you know, the city did put a bunch of people into temporary shelter. So actually did like real housing first, but that didn't last a super long time. And then, you know, we were starting to try to advocate for the bathroom being open. The Bathroom Access Coalition formed. FAFSA was keeping a calendar and going and checking when the bathroom was stocked and open or when it was locked and dirty or broken. So we're kind of starting to report these things back. And then we, towards the end of 2021, were noting that the eviction moratorium was being overturned. And so that was a really terrifying thing to come down the pike. And we were like, we have to organize. Like, this is going to be a waterfall of folks who are suddenly going to be houseless. And it's really scary. So we started organizing that way, kind of built the foundations of the Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice, which Ray is our Director of Policy and Strategy, who's here as well. We started thinking about teaching, we're teaching courses about allyship and housing justice now. We're working on I kind of just say from every level, from like the granular neighborhood person to person level, all the way up to like state and federal policy. Like I'm interested in everything in between. So all the different ways that we can work on housing justice, anything that we have access to. But then, so we sort of, in the long story short, we ultimately advocated enough with the city and, talked to the mayor, talked to the city manager, was like, come look at the people who are all living here on the street, in the camp, in the park, who don't have access to this bathroom all the time. Like, this is inhumane. It's not okay. And it's having a huge impact on the neighborhood too, because people have nowhere to go to the bathroom. So we agreed on a partnership in the fall of 2022, in which Splinter would monitor the park. So we hired on people to be park monitors and project managers, and we would go and literally just clean the bathroom and make sure it was open, unlock the bathrooms, make sure there's toilet paper, clean it. The city would still come and wash it in the morning. We would do the second, runs. And as part of that monitoring, our agreement was to keep people out of the park side, but to allow them to live in the encampment, to pick up trash in the park, to just kind of be a friendly presence in the park, and try to see if we could find a way to make, the park accessible to everyone, including our houseless neighbors and relatives. That project was going relatively well, but from my opinion, however, the population of folks at camp just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow, and the neighborhood started to freak out. And so both the railroad and the neighborhood, we've had a lot of pushback from a lot of places, and I think there's some misunderstanding that I'm out here advocating for encampments as a solution, and that is not what I'm saying. Encampments are not a solution. Encampments are really but they exist because of necessity, because there is no other solution right now. Until we actually give people real housing options, encampments will always exist, and if we push them around, they're just going to keep moving around. And so what I was proposing to the city was, like, rather than sweep this encampment, so we were doing eviction defense and actively defending the camp from being swept. Rather than sweeping this encampment, let us stabilize them. Let us support the folks at camp while you come out and you bring services. And hopefully, like, they'll be in the same place. Caseworkers will be able to find them. Things will be stable. People will not be in like the most desperate situation they've ever been with. And we were organizing with the folks in camp, like talking about what folks in camp wanted and thought were the best ideas. And since there's a couple folks from camp here too, I'm going to pass the mic to them in a moment and let them tell you about what happened the day of the sweep. But in terms of what's happened now, the day of the sweep was absolute chaos. It felt like an actual war zone to me. And it was really traumatic for pretty much everybody involved. So we rushed and put about half the folks. So the city wants to say there were only 30 people left in camp when it was swept, and that is wildly inaccurate. I don't know that anyone went to shelter, maybe one person, but I don't have numbers on this, and they haven't given me any real numbers. What I do know is that there were 80 people in front of my home and Clay's shop on the day of the sweep. And with the chaos and the fighting, it just did not seem like, to me, a tenable solution in any way to leave that group of people there. And the city was not going to do anything else about it. They were done with the park. They had pushed everybody out of the park. Park was closed. We're done. So now we have 80 people on the street and 20 dogs, and it's chaos. So we called around. We found a local hotel that was willing to work with us. We explained the situation sort of softly, but then for real later. So now we have 14 hotel rooms that we have folks in there. We've got about 38 people in hotel. We were able to do that in 24 hours. The city kept saying they were going to put people into shelter. They didn't put anybody into shelter in that whole process. So what's the difference? And why were we able to do that and they couldn't? I mean, we have some freedom. I just decided to pay over $5,000 a week for hotel rooms but the city could pay over $5,000 a week for hotel rooms. It's the city. Anyway, and I know there's all kinds of intricacies and all kinds of things, but I'm like, this is broken if this is the thing that is happening. So right now the updates are, we have about half the camp out here camped out. We've got about half the camp in the hotel, and we're just trying to get real creative with solutions. I'm talking to the city about, I mean, if I can just literally become a Section 8 landlord now and take like rent houses and then sublease them to folks and take vouchers or whatever. I'm trying to figure out like anything that could be possible. Looking into house shares, looking into group homes, looking into starting a shelter program, looking into building a shelter. Obviously, a lot of these things take money and time. So I'm really interested in the most affordable and very rapid term solutions. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., the city is going to come out. They're sending a team, but that is only happening because I kept bugging them about it and was like, please, can you send some people out and can we go together? And again, I'm sort of like, why is it that I have to call you? Like, this is your job. Most of the folks out here, my sense is that like, I would hope that they're like, oh yeah, I've talked to social workers a whole bunch of times. I know all my options and I don't want them, but that's not what I'm hearing, right? What I'm hearing is people haven't talked to social workers. People do not know their options. People feel really stuck and lost and not connected, no matter what is happening. So somewhere it's not working. In a lot of places it's not working. And I'm really interested in what we can do to solve that. So they're coming around at 7 a.m. with a team of 15 or 20 people from a bunch of different organizations. Anybody who would like to do the rounds with them, I really want to have eyes on what's actually happening, what's being said, how it's being responded to. I do have word that there's 20 beds open at the Cornerstone Detox, which is a pretty good one. Everyone gets their own room and their own shower, but still that's 20 beds and they have to be willing to go to detox. That's not shelter, because there's a lot of people out here who don't need to detox as well. So anyway, that's my little update. That's where we're at now. We've been doing fundraising, rummage sales. People have been amazing, donating money, donating stuff, donating hours. A bunch of y'all here on this call have been doing the rounds with us and checking in on people. And I'm so grateful. There is absolutely no way that we could have done any of this without y'all. So appreciate you. I want to turn it over to Duchess and Shadow and anybody else from camp who wants to just speak a little bit to what happened on the 27th.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So what happened on the 27th was a nightmare. We were given a notice previously that Monday, and it pretty much stated that, the city it was the city's property and that they were doing a clean, and that everybody needs to remove their personal belongings while they're doing the clean. Now, from what in my opinion, I think there was wordplay. They did not say that we were getting evicted. They did not say that we couldn't come back on the property. They just pretty much said that, hey, this is our property and we want to clean this area, and that's that. 5 o'clock in the morning, a friend of mine or a significant other of mine had woke me up and said, it's time. They are all gathering in the parking lot and they're going to, pretty much kick us out. So I got up frantic and making sure like everybody knows, hey, let's stick together, stand your ground, know your rights. They cannot do this. This is illegal. They cannot bulldoze our things. Just stand your ground. And a lot of them did stand their ground, but a lot of them also was intimidated by the police that came in and just pretty much gave everybody like 3 minutes, 4 minutes to go and gather their things and leave that area. To my understanding, it was supposed to be railroad's property, private property, but it said it was the city's property. So in between there was some type of false information that was given to us. And during that whole time, everybody's like frantically packing their things up, and all you see is like a whole bunch of cops. Like, we don't see a cleanup crew, we see cops. And it started from the end closest to Splinter. They started to tear down people's tents. I mean, literally ripping people's tents apart. You know, me and Dan was standing, we were in the front, kind of. Well, actually, we were in the front by the gate. And we were like, you guys, do not leave. Do not, you know, this happened plenty of times. Stand your ground, stand your ground. The chief of police, I guess he was chief of police, one of the two, he said that he was going to arrest me and Dan because we were not complying to what they were stating. They were, you know, for us to leave. And from there, everybody was leaving, crying, you know, lost a lot of things. And me and Dan was actually like the last ones out. I was definitely the last one out, politically speaking, letting them know that what they were doing was unlawful and, you know, and wrong. So from there, the police, when we were leaving out, actually, I'm sorry, let me back up. Brandy and Marty was there. I was very upset with them because we just had Splinter Collectives and we just had a meeting with Marty in the city about, okay, what, you know, coming up with a plan to make sure that everyone was housed. And they sounded so interested, and they seemed like they were, you know, board was helping us figure out a solution. And it was completely different from what the meeting was. We told them that we were not able to go to these high, you know, restricted shelters like the Salvation Army and the Gospel Rescue Mission, because, you know, you couldn't have your pets there, or there was just too much high restriction. And they came, Marty and Brandy came in saying, okay, well, we have places for you, which is the Gospel Rescue Mission and, you know, Salvation Army. And I was like pretty much flabbergasted. Like, we just talked about this, that these are not optional, like for folks here. And it was like through one ear, not the other. And I would completely went off on them. I'm sorry, I did. I completely felt betrayed and felt lied to. And I felt like they took it as a joke. They stood there in their little group with a couple of officers around them, just laughing, smiling, you know, waving. And was getting so frustrated because I was like, what is there to laugh or smile about? Like, you are displacing a lot of people and you're destroying their property, and you have nowhere to put us, and like, you have nowhere tangible to house us, and you lied to us. So that was that. You know, I made my message clear that they're liars. And from there, everybody, when they oh my God, when they were bulldozing our stuff, all I can see is everybody's things, like personal property, was just getting crushed by these metal claw-looking machines that was just picking up people's stuff, crushing it, putting it into like a dumpster, and then crushing it again. And, you know, a lot of people lost a lot of things. Like, my dog lost her, Sasha, she lost her Valley fever medicine. You know, I know there was somebody, daughter had a birthday and they had presents for their daughter, completely gone. You know, it was a lot of people lost a lot of stuff. And me knowing my rights, I know that that's going against our rights. You know, you have, if any government official destroys anybody's property without due process, they are supposed to be compensated for it. And no one's seen any compensation. The cops didn't care. They just wanted us off that property, and they just pretty much put us in the middle of the street where Splinter Collectives, the building, was at, the entrance part. And we all just sat around like, okay, what's gonna happen? And, there were some people at the charging station and just sitting around and, wondering what was the next step. And so we decided that we were going to start pitching our tents by the splinter collectives. It was my opinion that we should do that because, Natalie and the splinter collectives have kept us safe. And I felt that was the most safest place. And everybody felt that was the safest place for them as well. So it was only supposed to be about like 10, 12 tents because there wasn't that many people that was actually like left behind at the charger station, but now it is growing. Same people that was at No Man's Land is, by the charger station, and they're actually, you can see it's a big turnaround. They are keeping it clean. In the beginning it was a little rough, but at the end we're all like working together, and we are so grateful for splinter collectives and everybody who's donated and gave time and effort to helping us. We really appreciate it. Gonna make me cry. But that being said, we are all working hard to figuring out a solution within No Man's Land, because we know that the support is amazing, but we are self-sufficient and we want to be able to contribute back to what is going on. That's it.
Thanks so much, Duchess. Really appreciate it. We are technically at the end of the hour. I'm happy to stay on if other people are happy to, but I'm going to just run through the rest of this presentation really quickly so that you all know some basic things. So I dropped a bunch of stuff into this slideshow that are just like fun factoids, things to look at, some statistics, some resources. Here is a bunch of stuff from this Shoestring Away from Nothing, Experiences of Housing and Insecurity in Pima County. We're not going to read through it now, but I just want you to know that it's there so you can go look at all of this. Here is the kind of call to action slide, ways to get involved, this how to plug into the efforts to support Estevan Camp. We also put that in the chat. This has just everything there, and we're going to keep this document rolling. We're going to keep updating it. We have another rummage sale coming up next weekend or this Friday. We're just trying to raise funds to keep people in a hotel, to transition into other houses, to do all the things we can. Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice listserv if you'd like to join that, and upcoming events and committees, and also write to the city and your local tenants union. Zaida is here from Tucson Tenants Union. Join up with them and their efforts to support tenants. Here are some also other resources: History of Landlords, Rent and the Feudal Origins of a Non-Working Class. It's a really excellent article and it's only like an 11-minute read. Bunch of other reading: Apartheid by Another Name, Zoning Regulations, and some cool stuff. Here's again that link to that. Cool. So I think I want to respect everyone's time. If you need to go, this is a good time to jet. And I think I'll stay on for another 30 minutes. And if anybody has questions, and if anyone wants to go into breakout rooms of like strategizing or thinking about ways that they would like to get involved, we can also do that. But I'll just say thank you all for being here so much. Your support means the world. And yes, we're accepting donations for the courtyard sale. David, who is our wonderful and super hardworking groundskeeper, is usually here and taking donations in the courtyard from 10 to 5. And yeah, like 10, 15, 20 people from the city and other organizations are going to be out here tomorrow. So anybody that wants to come and just have eyes and love and support for folks, it's a good time. Yeah, so thank you all for being here. And
there's a question in the chat about folks from out of state wanting to donate. They can donate via the website, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I put that in there. Yeah. Just go to splintercollective.org and you can donate right on the website. It's Give Butter is the platform that we use.
I want to thank y'all for the platform that for this and for the Splinter Collective. and I had a chance to meet David today from the Amphi Neighborhood Association, and we got camps popping up, and we getting summer survival items and stuff, right? And I don't know nothing about this, so I've been trying to contact y'all, but with the sweep and whatnot, I haven't been able to meet. But man, David was great today. I got his phone number, and he kind of vetted my list and added some stuff to it. So I'll be talking to y'all more, and I'm glad I got David there for a resource that I could bounce off. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free, I don't know how you've been reaching out to us, but I haven't seen it, but email me, call me.
I did through Splinter Collective, but yeah, I need to have a way to get in contact with y'all, because we doing some other stuff too, and I don't know nothing about what I'm doing. Like, we helping with housing, and we doing stuff, but we new jacks, and we need some help, man. You know.
I'm dropping my phone and my email in the chat right here.
All right, and Zyda with Tucson Tenants Union, that was another. Just had to gain information. So for about a year now, man, I've been with them too, man. So I appreciate y'all for all y'all do, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, Hassan.
If anyone would like to just drop your emails in the chat as well, if that's easier than kind of hunting down the different links that have been shared, please do so. And we'll be happy to email you, get you onto the Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice, email you this presentation, the link to the document that's being collated and ever evolving. So feel free to drop your info there too. We'd love to keep in touch.
And also, Danny and I run courses through Justice Movement and the Tucson Alliance for Housing Justice. We do a 4-week allyship and housing justice course. Bunch of people in this chat have been through it. And if anybody wants to go, it's fully sliding scale. You can pay nothing, you can pay whatever you want. And it's been a really excellent way to kind of like build the community and talk through and think through these issues together. So we'd love it if you'd join us for one of those. And if you drop your email, we'll let you know, or you can check out justicemovement.org for that as well. Any other thoughts, questions, things that have come up?
Yes,
question
no, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll go in after you.
Let's hear John real quick, and then we'll go to Duchess.
Just the main thing that kind of came to mind, and this is something in my kind of organizing journey. I wish I would have done more at the beginning. What's your familiarity with the other agencies?
Some decent familiarity, but we're definitely working on that. And there's agencies that I feel like I have we're more aligned with than others. And yeah, I think we're always trying to make different spreadsheets and whatever. And then I'm mostly contacting like the city and trying to get them to connect me with the people that have space and shelter beds and detox beds and whatever available. But I'm also really interested in organizing in this space that is focused on recovery but not sobriety. I feel like there's a lot of people who are would really benefit from a more of a harm reduction approach. And I think that we have, if I can pull together the funding, if I can pull together, a bunch of different details, which I really feel confident that I can, it's just more of a matter of how fast. I think that we could fill a really missing chunk of what's available in the city. And I've been talking to some people about that. So there's some solutions in the works that I think I have some really good ideas about. But what I'd really like to do is just secure some houses where we can start working with some of the folks that already have jobs, that already are like in school, that already like Shadow and her partner Michael are both in school already. And they don't need to go to a detox center. They don't need to go to a full service shelter type situation. They're perfectly ready to live in a house. They just need the like step up to get to that space. But yeah, I agree with you. And I wish there was just kind of a database where everyone, you could just go and be like, okay, here's all the resources, here's who's got space and what kind of shelters and all that stuff, which would be a great thing to put together someday.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I think someone mentioned it earlier in the chat there with Jason with TPCH, but having been on TPCH in some capacity, just connecting in with that, I think you can be that liaison, just like you were talking about earlier about, most people just don't know about the services. So a lot of times, like, we're going to be camping out at the downtown park called Safe Park, May 27th through 29th, just to let people know about the services that are available. So I certainly, if I can connect you in any way, let me know. And yeah, that's
Yeah, I'd love to
I
have a
commend
conversation.
what you're doing though, for sure.
Likewise. Do you have any space at Vet and Rescue available?
I'd love to sit down with you and talk about it for sure.
Great.
Okay, can I talk? I think that what it will be really important for the community to see is actually reenacting the event that happened when we got displaced. So coming up with like a not a short movie, but like a reenactment of everything that happened, pretty much. With the same characters or same people playing themselves, and or other, people that were not there acting out what actually happened, because I believe that the community really does not know exactly what goes on in these encampments and how much of a community is being built within these encampments and with the people. I think that homeless people get the wrong perception of like what homeless is, and puts us like in a category that's not human, I guess. I don't know, dehumanizes us. And I think that if we were to kind of reenact like a little small movie about how some folks got there, coming from all different types of walks of life, and then what happens when the police come and displace everybody and bulldoze their property, so they can actually, the community can actually feel like, oh wow, this is what's going on, instead of just hearing from different people that, hey, they're getting displaced. So if you guys have any thoughts or ideas about that, or let me know if that's a good idea.
Hey, this is Joanna. Duchess, I think what you're saying is really interesting, because I've been throughout the whole call, I'm thinking about, the other folks who live here in Dunbar Spring, and people just have a lot of opinions and thoughts, and earlier in the meeting it was mentioned that was part of what pushed the city to do what they did. And so I'm thinking like that, it sounds like the housing justice training is kind of for people who are already there. And there's a lot of people who wouldn't sign up for a housing justice training. Like, how can we reach people here and change hearts and minds and help them like grow, not just in pity, but in empathy?
Yeah, I met with the Tucson Crime Free Coalition the other day, who are some of the people that have been really vocally pushing against encampments and pushing for sweeps and all that. And it's unsurprising. Their opinions were not surprising to me, but they actually did listen to me, which I thought was a little surprising. Not that they were necessarily receptive, but they listened to my words. I think it's often something where, no, people are not going to sign up for a housing justice course. We do have a whole housing justice education project that we're working on, like multiple of them, around sort of like breaking down myths and all these kinds of things. I think what we're hoping to do is like bring shorter presentations to neighborhood associations. We're working with Tucson YIMBY to do this and trying to reach people where they're at. Also, you're often not ever going to convince the people that are all the way on a very different thing. So I'm very interested in just trying to convince the people that really do care, but just don't understand the issue, and who are sort of like, ready to hear the information and just need a way to understand it better.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, exactly. It's about working on the spectrum of allies. Like, you're not going to get your active opponents to be the active supporters.
Right.
But we can move everybody one notch over on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I would like to say the problem is so complex. I don't even think we can understand it in a year. Like everything that's happening in the economy, everything that's happening with drug use. I would say the movie, yes, that would be an important part, but there are so many layers. There is such a history. There is so much to get at. I mean, we're trying to understand as much as we can now, but we can barely crack the surface. And then before we know it, everything is swept. Does that make sense? It's just a hard situation to really wrap our brains around. I appreciate all the effort we're having here, but you can't just do it in one like workshop. Right?
If you give me 10 minutes, not right now, but I'm telling you, I can explain absolutely everything in 10 minutes, being that has been my will.
I think there's something to be said about humility and all the unknowns. Like whenever you walk up to somebody, you have to be prepared for anything. You don't know their personal story, even though you've lived something similar. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, the thing is that I actually, it is a very large problem, but it actually isn't that complex. There's a lot of research driven, very well proven for decades, solves to a lot of these issues. And, you know, a lot of issues require a specific solution, but, you know, we created this problem and we can fix it by kind of going backwards and doing some of the things that we didn't do or undoing things that we did do in the 50s. And abundant, very affordable housing is Keith's terminology that he loves to say all the time. That really is true. I mean, that we have to build more housing. Liz, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just related. I wanted to plug that No Jail Deaths is currently working on a report, and I've talked to a few people on here about this report, essentially against the building of a new jail, all the abuse and jail deaths that have occurred in the jail, including some folks who are houseless who have died in the jail. And right intertwined with that is, you know, the city currently like criminalizing and dehumanizing houseless folks, and with a big focus on kind of their new narrative that to solve what they're saying, you know, the homeless issue and the drug issue is to arrest houseless folks pretty much for anything at this point to force them into diversion programs. So we are making a report on kind of like the history of incarceration in Tucson, and these models that will actually work and have worked in other cities, have worked in, you know, Vancouver, like with safe sites. So I know I've already talked to a few folks here, but I would love to plug in with anybody. Yeah, that's our, it's No Jail Deaths on our website. We have an email, nojaildeaths.com, but I'll put my email also in the chat. And I respond to our Instagram. It's just No Jail Deaths. But obviously right now, like this is all so intertwined with houselessness and criminalization of houselessness, and just using policing and incarceration as a way to address issues when it should be, you know, focused on housing, focused on putting resources and money into our communities. So I'd love to connect with anybody who are, you know, working on some of these models and policies and things to put in our report.
Duchess, you had a hand up?
Yeah, so okay, besides the movie is pretty much everybody's issues wrapped up into one. At the end of the day, we all meet at one of these encampments that have been displaced. I mean, you can come from any background, any walks of life, you know, everybody's situation is different, but at the end of the day, we have been displaced and we ended up in certain encampments. And that is the part that I wanted to kind of push out into the public, that these are still people, and that nobody's immune to being displaced. And like it can happen to anybody at any time. But a more broader look about what happens when these folks are being displaced, coming from different walks of life and, you know, backgrounds and things of that nature. so that being said, with the movie, as far as the housing part, I think that Natalie and Split Collectives are in a position to do things completely different from the status quo. Okay, so that means like they are going, like I have a, like, I'm so confident in them and their ability to get the word out there, the message that whatever the government has been doing, it's not working. And I believe that we miss when we go straight into drug addiction and we go in like straight into mental health, we miss the point of why are these people, you know, having mental health or having a drug addiction. There's a reason behind everything. So where does it start? And I don't think that it's the people. I think that it is the government disabling the people from taking care of their families. You know, there's jobs that people are highly qualified for, and they don't get the job for discrimination reasons and what have you, that they cannot support their families. So, you know, that right there alone, it starts within the house. There go your mental disability right there. And then it gets, you know, you self-soothe. It goes on and on. And I believe that homelessness should not be categorized separately because this person may have drug addiction and this person might have a mental disability, you know, but it's everything in one. It should never be separated because it starts somewhere and then it ends all in the same place. So the housing part, because, you know, a lot of people are not qualified for some of these shelters, or they get set up for failure because they have a drug addiction, and you know the programs are not being realistic of what they ask someone who has been doing drugs for maybe like 20-something years, and you know, not to do drugs all of a sudden one day, and then they, you know, end up getting caught with drugs and then they get kicked out. It's just a setup for failure. It's a cycle that we're going to continue to see if we don't change it. And what Splinter Collectives is doing right now is changing the game and changing the face on how government is allocating these shelters and giving services to the people that need it, and what services they're giving to the people that need services. And I don't know, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future, because this is going to be something I believe, you know, the states have not seen yet, and I'm excited. Yeah, so
Awesome. I see Aura.
Sorry, I couldn't find the button. Yes, yeah, my name is Aura. This has been such an amazing conversation. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's here also. Yeah, one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and Nat knows this from my time at Splinter, is also the concept of rest and care and restoring oneself. So that was something I came here because I really wanted to introduce that concept. I know a lot of people talk about it. It's something that I really love. And I realize it's also a huge privilege, that idea, especially within disability justice. And I wanted to come here to kind of toss that idea into the room, into the space. And if there's some way that I can personally bring some of those concepts and sort of keep on encouraging, how is the community finding rest? How are the activists finding rest? I look at this type of activism, especially as coming in waves and needing a lot of extra rest, a lot of extra care, like even just saying, okay, how are the teams that are going out feeling restored? Who's caring for the people that are at, at the yard sale? Who's hydrating people? Because to me, I've seen so many times, myself included, just getting burnt out doing this work. And so I just wanted to applaud this, applaud it and say, how can the rest and the care be built into this? Because I know it's long-term, and I'm excited, but I'm also witnessing and just saying, I just want to make sure that if there's things I can do to encourage that, as I'm learning to care for myself, doing activism. I wanted to just say that is so key for me. And I've been pretty emotional witnessing this, and I just want to just continue to witness and encourage with a lot of admiration and a lot of care. So that's what I wanted to introduce.
Thanks, Sora. Yeah, I think there's something too, and like I do try to bring this, but it's like it doesn't have to be donations of money. It doesn't have to be donations of like labor and hours or, you know, things, but even just like literally love, like like energy, just saying hello, hydrating people, you know, checking in on people. Those things are really, really appreciated. And I feel really held with folks who do that for me. So remembering to just that's such an important part of a movement. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Laura.
Can I clarify a date here? I see Thursday, May 11th posted by Ray. I have on the calendar that's synced with you guys. There's a TPCH meeting that happens monthly. Then that's between 12:30 and 1, and we're at May 11th. That's May 11th. Bathroom Access Coalition is your guys' calendar, scheduled between 4 and 5:30 p.m. Camp Defense I have at 7 a.m. to 12 because, well, maybe I don't know why that's there. Oh. And this is Thursday at 11, but in the evening, you're saying, right? This
Yes.
right?
Along with the organizing in park and organizing with
the
with
bathroom
folks who are facing houselessness today, the Alliance for Housing Justice is also trying to do some work on addressing some of the issues of people being driven into houselessness, because this is continuing, right? Because we're talking about the extraction of wealth through landlords like stealing people's money, and seeing a rise in this in the mobile home parks as especially private equity firms are buying up parks and driving up the rents and continuing to push people onto the street. So we're doing a Know Your Rights training specifically focused on know your rights for people who live in mobile home parks this Thursday with lawyers from Step Up to Justice. It'll be at Las Milpitas Community Farm from 5:30 to 7:30.
Would that be something I would want to do? I don't really have any say in that world right now, right?
You're welcome to attend. Anyone's welcome to attend. Yeah, and especially encouraging people who are either living in mobile homes or who want to organize in that community.
There was an ask in the chat for, thanks Ray, thanks Victoria. There's an ask in the chat for more information about what's happening tomorrow morning. So basically I've just been like, I was too busy with everything else to be bugging city people, and I just kind of didn't have much to say to them that first week. And then I had a little more capacity. So I've been reaching out and talking to folks, and I was just like, we really need, I really want you to bring these social workers out here, and I really want us to go with you, because I need to know what you're saying to people, because none of this is like coordinated and communicated. So they came over today and they said, all right, we're sending a team out, and that team will be large, 15 to 20 people. So there's 3 people, Justin, Alex, and somebody else from the city homeless outreach protocol team office. There's an organization called Hope that's coming. There's someone from El Rio coming. There's someone from Kodak coming, or someone's from Kodak coming. And they are going to come and they're going to do the rounds. They have 20 beds available in what's called Cornerstone, which is a detox facility. We do have some folks who seem ready to go to detox. And so I'm hoping, very, very hopeful that those 20 beds will get filled tomorrow. I don't know if they will, but that is my hope. And then, so we're hoping to get some people in there. I asked them, okay, so they stay there for 7 to 10 days. And then what happens? And they said, well, then we take them to one of our shelters, like the Wildcat, if there's space. And I said, what happens if there's not space? And they said, well, they might have to wait a few weeks for a bed. If they have to wait a few weeks, I feel like it is very unlikely, if they're living on the street again, that they will not just start using again. I just met another person the other day who was just in detox and got out, and he was like, yeah, I'm doing a week in, and then a week out, and then a week in. And he's like, and he was like, I'm just getting high one more time or whatever before I go back. But you know, that does not seem like a super great solution, like to just, and so I was like, well, okay, if they're in this shelter that's far away from here and or in this detox program, and then they get out, like, if they're not going to shelter, what are you going to do with them? Are you going to bring them back here? And he said, maybe, but if they get out on a weekend, it's hard for us to coordinate. And I said, I really hope that y'all will call us, or they will call us, because we have also been asking, as we've been getting people into shelters, like, we want to be able to check on them. We wanted to be able to be in touch with them. And so far we have not been allowed to go into the Wildcat or into the Notel. Some of our team have been like very rudely kicked out when we've just been trying to bring flyers around and things like that. Brandy says we are allowed to go. We just have to set it up or something like this, but it just hasn't been our experience that it's been reasonable for us to do that so far. So anyway, I'm just hoping to have like very close eyes on who actually goes where, and so we can keep track of people, and if they go into detox and then they are just turned back onto the street, that we know where they're at and what's happening. So that's what's happening in the morning. The team is going to do a round of everybody here at the camp, and then they're also going to go visit all the hotel rooms. So, and I hope this is not the only time, because also one of the issues that's been reflected is that some people have jobs, some people are up all night, and they're not going to answer the door at 7 a.m. So like, if 7 a.m. is the only time you come out with services, you're going to miss a lot of people. And that has been what I've been hearing a lot too. Like one guy here who's, sober and lives in his car and has a job, and he's like, I never see them because I'm at work all day. So anyway, a lot of issues like that. I see John.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm, as I said in my little breakout group, I'm trying not to obstruct what you guys are doing, because you guys are doing great work. I certainly just want to help however I can. Another question that came to mind is your entity status.
We are a 501c3.
Okay. Because I mean, it seems like and again, kind of my story, a lot of the work that I was doing for years, I was a social service agency and I didn't realize it. And the work you're doing social service work. It's just a matter of, how to, if you're interested in, how to access the same type of funding that the other social service agencies are accessing, or at least how to, be a navigator to those agencies in the meantime until you are at that point. So again, I'd love to sit down with your group and help however I can, or certainly you guys have my information I put in the comments. So it's beautiful what you're doing, and any way I can help, I'm here. I'm trying not to be obstructive. So definitely, just tell me how I can help.
Totally. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, I think my intention was to be an organizing entity and to organize with folks, not to be a social service agency or a direct service agency. But that is now something that has sort of become necessary, but we're trying to do it. Oh, it's Stephanie just posted in the chat that we're trying to work from like a solidarity framework and not become a charity organization. I think that to me is really central. And the question is sort of like, I've been thinking a lot about like, what are our unique skills around kind of being able to teach like collective living and approach housing differently, because I have a lot of experience in building collectives and communities, and a lot of us do. So like some of those life skills and things, I think we could approach from a really different way, where we're sort of like learning together and learning what will work best and different, and really listening to the community and their ideas. And, a lot of times it's like, yeah, you try something and then you have to pivot and it has to be different. But yes, funding sources that are sort of more for the social service stuff would be super useful. And I know they are out there. So I'd love to talk. We've messaged before, but we've never managed to have that conversation. So we'll do it.
Yeah, just let me know when. I'm definitely open to you or the group, however it works out.
Great. All right, it is 9:03. I'm super down to continue hanging out, but I'd like to keep meetings from going on endlessly, so people will maybe come back to another one. But any last thoughts? Anything you'd like to bring to the group?
Can I add on to the sobriety, rehabilitation. I think that needs to be reformed too, because a lot of people that get out of rehab go right back to the streets, go right back to doing drugs. There is a percentage that actually stay sober, but that's very it's not a majority. Maybe if we reform or start a whole different type of rehabilitation that is effective, that give people, a and a plan after they get out, is very imperative. That we discover something different than what has already been, on the platform. I have a whole bunch of ideas, but it definitely needs to be reformed.
Yeah, and harm reduction movements are really well established and have shown to be very successful in doing what they do. So.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. I have to go to bed if I'm going to be there, okay?
Sounds good. Bye, Victoria. Nice to see you.
Bye.
I just want to thank everyone for coming. I think we had 48 people on this call at the top, and that's pretty amazing. People that have both been impacted as well as that want to show up. So thanks, y'all.
Yeah. And super here for any other conversation questions, just reach out.
I just wanted to add on to the rest thing that I think play and goofing off and dancing and playing games, and it's all part of like taking care of each other and resting. And so I'm looking for like kickballs and hula hoops and stuff. And there's always music playing. And I think Friday is a good moment to do that too. So yeah. And I'm excited about your ideas, Duchess. I think I'm down to make art with my body and other people. And yeah.
We have a
I'm
ton
excited.
of hula hoops and circ roots. I'm sure we could borrow.
Yeah, let's play. I'll see you all tomorrow, actually, very early.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. All you guys are angels to us, and for sure to me. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to what the future holds. I can't wait to see the outcome of all of this and us all growing together. So thank you and have a good night. Talk to you guys soon.
Amanda, you mentioned we would love any offerings you might want to offer, things, classes, things like that. If anybody wants to do some, like free yoga, meditation stuff here in the courtyard or at the hotel or at the camp, like we would welcome that so much.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. There's, I've been a massage therapist for 36 years, a yoga teacher for over 25, but I've studied tapping and just so much trauma.
Yeah, tapping is such a good one.
Yes.
So good.
Stuff like that, polyvagal theory, all of that. And so I really am in a place where I would love to offer classes, workshops, speaking, whatever would support in that way.
It's great.
Then we'll talk.
Okay, sounds good.
Much, Nat. Appreciate it.
If I could, I wanted to take advantage of this audience of people I have here, particularly Nat, I have you here, and I think a lot of people, even in this community, I mean, myself included, that and have involved, want to help or want to kind of be involved with this park that's at Estevan Park, or this campus at Estevan Park. I didn't know it was called
No Man's Land.
No Man's Land. Yeah, I like that's fun. Yeah, and like Safe Park, it kind of like manifested just from the people that were there when we did that. But another question I had, because I mean, definitely the thing I saw, and it was a similar thing that I saw from Safe Park to Bravo Base to now to what was Veteran Rescue Mission, and we kind of figured out how to navigate people a little better as we got to this point. Is like what was at Estevan Park, now it's at Splinter Cell Collective. You know, it's pretty much it was
Yeah.
as park camp, and now it's a Splinter Cell Collective Park. So what was indirectly your issue is now directly your issue. So it definitely it increases the urgency, but it doesn't change the direction of how to solve the problem. You know, from your standpoint, your modality, you know, however you go about it, because you know I was an Occupy protester in the depth of it. Like I was at the very beginning of it. Like I got arrested probably, I mean, not to brag, not to flex, more than probably anybody else in Tucson, 61 times. So that's, I mean, I was in the depths of it. So I also know what getting carried away with it looks like. And then just it being at my front door and then having to say, okay, or actually not in my front door, being in my living room and then having to say, okay, now it's in my living room. How do I address this problem for our society?
Yeah.
So the other question I had was how many people, and if you don't mind, like some level of demographic, just so I can, you know, when we do meet, I can kind of already have some information for you so I can tell you, like, if you haven't already checked these little pockets and talked to these people, maybe consider talking to these people.
Yeah, I would say, you know, we have a good number of folks who are quite young, and largely people of color. Good mix of everybody, Black, Brown, Latinx, Native folk. We have a lot of white folks too. Real mix in ages. We have like, we've been trying to get most of the older folks into the hotel. So most of the older folks are there now. We have
how many people are in the hotel?
35 or 38, something like this, 35.
Because with the older people, you probably have a lot of veterans among them.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how many. I mean, the one veteran that was in camp for a long time, she did get housing through the city, but she's still around a lot. So yeah, we definitely should ask about how many veterans we have.
I'm not trying to pick on you at all.
No, not at all. It's like a capacity issue of being like, I've been wanting to go around and have like an individual conversation with each person and be like, okay, these questions, what's your plan? Like, you know, basically kind of make an individual plan with everybody. And I just, there's only one of me.
Yeah, I understand 100%. And our capacity at our spot at its height, and we had maybe like one family that stayed with us in that time, was 15. You know, 15 people that me as John McClain could manage as a social worker and take them to their appointments and take them to get their IDs and get their birth certificates, social security cards. And for me, and when we meet, I'll give it to you. I have like a 25-point checklist of like those items that get them in shape or ready for when they are on the housing list, or particularly for a veteran, which usually it only takes about 3 to 6 weeks to get them from on the housing list to in housed. So yeah, I mean, I'm just here to help you out. You know, I know for me, for my own self personally, for 5 years, I had to figure out how to what these different systems were. And then once I, you know, figured out for myself, it took me another almost 10 years to figure out how to educate other people on those things. So I'm here to help you, you know, as much as I can, because definitely once we have a roof over our head, we're a little ahead of the game and being in the mindset we need to be able to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been kicking around the idea of like thinking about what would it mean to grow enough that we would hire social workers or social worker or something like this. And I think that's a really interesting question for me. And I don't, but I think what I'm really hoping is that we can sort of fill the gap in this model, and then the people that are already offering things like the ID services, we can plug in with them. And so that would be another thing I'd love to, yeah, pick your brain about.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the low hanging fruit are grants for different demo groups. Like obviously I focus primarily on veterans. So there's like the Arizona Department of Veteran Services has grants, Home Depot, Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
And they're really the thing that I think grants get like this bad rap on. They think that there's just like, they really box you in such this really tight way, but it's not necessarily true. Like I get a grant from the Arizona Department of Veteran Services that pays me to give people their get their driver's license or pay for like a hotel room for X amount of time and different stuff like that. Granted, you know, obviously that stuff expires like that, and it's usually at this point, and you know, and certainly I want to help you, you know, create whatever that modality looks like within you guys' world. You know, the linear of how, you know, you find somebody from the worst, you know, what one would consider, you know, the dealing with substance abuse, dealing with all kinds of trauma, dealing with, you know, death in family, a broken relationship, you just got out of jail, everything that you could possibly think of, and then get them to create a nonprofit to help people that are dealing with those type of things. You know, that's, you know, that linear, which it seems like that's your testimony in a lot of ways. So it'll be probably really easy for you to create that system. Or if you
yeah, and you know, I'm really interested in, we do get a lot of grants, and I don't mind writing grants. What I'm really looking for now are bigger grants, because I can't be spending all this time on an $8,000 grant or whatever, you know, like I really need some secure funding. And so that's what I'm hoping, if we do kind of take this leap, which I think we just are, that we can find some funding sources to basically open a shelter program, but something that we can experiment with and do differently. And then ideally stabilize these folks, and then they run the shelter program and put myself out of a job. That's what I would like to do.
Are you with the Community First out of Austin?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Me and Dr. Ranieri with Lofgren, I'm not sure if you met him, but I'd love to set up a meeting with you and him.
Yeah, that'd be great. Please do.
But yeah, it's one of the few I haven't visited, but yeah, good night. It's I think really in line with a lot of what you're talking about, where you have kind of like, you have micro businesses and you have kind of like training and kind of community organizing within it. Also out of Seattle with ShareWill, they have a model that's really in line, like where it's kind of consensus-based decision making and kind of collective organizing to get stuff done, rather than kind of what is considered more hierarchical, which I mean, there's me personally, I don't have a preference because I've been part of so many different things. I'm still part of so many different things, like whether it's, you know, this group that I'm part of, that I'm the treasurer and I help make sure that money's safe, or this group that I'm part of that I'm the executive director because I thought of the idea of it. You know, there's all different parts, but parts of what you guys are doing, I just want to be able to help however I can, primarily just information, because it seems like you guys are doing a lot of this. You're in this, you particularly, Nat, are in the exact same position me and Lewis Arthur were in, whether we, you know, however we kind of think differently, where the problem was in our hands. Like it was literally, we had to deal with it physically. So we thankfully had great people around us to organize and make it happen. But if we didn't make it happen, it was we are the ones that had to answer to those people, and would probably beat us up if we don't get it answered appropriately.
Yeah.
You know, that, for good reason, you know, because I had been one of those people at one time. So yeah.
Actually, John, I wonder, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I know you were out there for a long time. And another friend of mine told me, like, oh yeah, this exact same thing was happening in 2005 at Estevan Park, like the same exact thing. And people have asked us, like, how long has that camp been there? And I'm like, kind of forever is my sense, but like different people on and off. But I was just curious if you knew that camp from your years living out there.
Well, Estevan Park, I mean, it's just like Santa Rita Park and Armory Park in some capacity. Definitely not Venta de Augusto Park. The only park in the city that is that way. And even the downtown Library Park, a lot of downtown parks, sort of Armory Park, they have a pretty static, unhoused population that if they don't stay there all day, they come back around there, they sleep there, they kind of find themselves back there. They have their routine parks they hop around to. So there's certainly like this camp out that I'll be doing May 27th, and I welcome you to. We'll definitely talk about it a lot between now and then, where I live on the street. And this will be the 13th year that I've done it, where I'll live Safe Park between May 27th to May 29th. And I usually just hand out information and need items, and then I'll get some people back to our camp or to our village to stay, and then transition them into the next step. But yeah, it's definitely, it's enlightening on kind of what's going on. But this, as far as Estevan Park and that what existed recently, that it seems like that was your energy, or the energy of your group kind of organized it. And definitely, that's why I'm glad I met with you guys, because I could tell it was organized, because I just did the street count recently. I don't know if you've ever done that. If you haven't, do it next year. It's illuminating. And I saw probably a dozen camps that I heard were as big as Estevan Park camp, and they weren't organized. They were, it wasn't the same type of camp. So yeah, it's back at Safe Park, I think the most we ever had was like 150 people there. But I never went down to No Man's Land, so I don't know exactly how it was structured. But I just saw pretty much the pictures from around, which TCFC is pretty good at marketing. So they definitely they made sure everybody saw what they wanted.
Saw it at its worst.
Yeah, but I didn't get to see it firsthand, so I never made any. I just assumed you guys were a group of good people trying to do good. So that's kind of how I came into this meeting.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you're here. Liz, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So just really quickly, something else we're trying to do is try to get a sign-on letter for some local businesses to kind of counter the crime-free coalition and the businesses that they're representing. And I think there would be a lot, actually, of local businesses who could do a sign-on letter that hopefully we'll have like with the report and everything, but potentially before that. And I know someone had mentioned, trying to get like people who it might have been you, who just don't really understand, and who maybe just want people, out of the park, but want people to actually go somewhere. And like business owners who maybe want people like away from their businesses, but aren't like necessarily these fascist business owners saying like, no, put them in jail. So we're hoping to get like a sign-on letter, a fact sheet, like pull some like a one-pager fact sheet from this report regarding the jail and incarceration in general, but especially right now with House of Spokes, to kind of pass around to some businesses to try and do a sign-on letter, because I think also the city council and board of supervisors will listen more to them. Especially some like big name people like Don Guerra just gave us a bunch of bread from Barrio to hand out at Armory Park. He seems like totally cool. He's done it before. So I'm hoping kind of some like big name people might like come out against what the city and the Crime Free Coalition are doing. And then, yeah, I'd love to just stay in touch. I already talked to Ray and I connected with Duchess also about, what you all are advocating for, so that we can be on the same page and, the city can get it from all kind of different sides and different groups.
I will say that the city is not taking the Crime Free Coalition very seriously at all, which is.
I mean, it sounds like that, but then like, it seems like whatever they kind of advocate for will end up happening. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I mean, I think it's also just that they're
saying
saying the things that a lot of the people who are calling into the
Right.
ward offices are saying
Yeah.
already. So it's sort of like,
and they're also very integrated with the Board of Supervisors, who I think also don't take them that seriously, but they like submitted this whole thing about, you know, you all need to, or the county attorney needs to prosecute people for using drugs.
yeah,
So that's one of their big things.
they're very
is-
good at being a squeaky wheel for sure.
Yes. So yeah, we're trying to especially counter that. I don't know if you saw their like
Right now, but I'll
pilot program with the community court. There's a new like community court, which is to force people into diversion programs, but we're not really sure how that's different from the already set up homeless court and the behavioral health court.
Yeah, I want to know more about that because
So if you want, I can CC or send you our Google Doc with like the outline of our report, because the first page is literally just like 50 questions, and we have, you know, law students and stuff who are in no jail deaths who are also going to be working on this and who are going to like get in touch with their professors. We're going to hopefully talk to some attorneys. Jared Keenan, the head of the ACLU Arizona, said that he would help also. And the first page is just all questions on that because it's so vague. And
Yeah.
right now, like the list of what the police can arrest people for, which I mean, they already are doing this, but I'm afraid it's going to ramp up even more because now they're using it as a guise of like, well, this is now going to, you know, solve the homeless problem and the drug problem.
yeah,
So it's just park charges, you know, being in the park after hours, smoking marijuana in public, public urination and defecation, but there's no bathrooms. So all of those, any of those charges, now people can be put into the community court and forced into diversion programs. Again, yeah, we already have a homeless court and we already have mental health court. So we don't know how this is different at all. Yeah, so I can share that that outline with you, and I shared it with Ray too. Yeah, that's our biggest thing right now. I think that we talked about, me and another person who's working on this report, is just like free reign basically to arrest and like houseless people for really anything, to try and force them into these diversion programs. And in the report, we want to list, you know, other harm reduction models that, you know, work, that have worked in other places, and like testimony from people who are houseless and incarcerated, formerly incarcerated people, not necessarily houseless, just anyone, since it's not the whole jail. And the Blue Ribbon Commission has until September to submit their report on if the new jail is necessary, which they're going to say yes. So we're hoping to have this like completely, totally finalized by August and start talking to people. Some people have been receptive, but it's mostly, you know, well, they want to spend more money on improving conditions. Like Matt Hines, Adelita Grijalva at the Board of Supervisors are more like, well, yeah, when we incarcerate people, they should be kept in good conditions and not dying. Instead of like, we shouldn't be incarcerating so many people. So that's what we're trying to move towards, obviously. And Lane did call like a study session to try and investigate more on the jail deaths, which I also don't really understand because the information's already there, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it just sounds like they're trying to fill this new jail with houseless folks as well as a solution, and pressure from the Crime Free Coalition and other businesses. And it's not going to work. I mean, my cousin's transcribing right now, like a 22-minute conversation I had with a man and woman in Santa Rita, who said exactly essentially what like Duchess said, that this is just making people feel like criminals and dehumanizing them. Like, even if they do believe this, like these diversion programs are going to work, like they're just pushing people through the criminal justice system and telling them they're criminals. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, is we want to, you know, counter the city council just giving the police more money too. Because one of the other things is like, we don't know what this interaction is going to look like with, like, is it the police who's going to be ticketing people? Because most of the interactions with like the police and mental health, like people with mental health issues, many of them have resulted in the police just killing that person. We don't know if people are going to be arrested and put in the jail and then in the diversion program, or if they're just going to be like paper ticketed and put in diversion, because many of the people who are dying, especially from fentanyl in the jail, are dying within 24 hours. So
Wait, can you say that last sentence again? I sort of missed it.
Most of the people who are dying in the jail are dying within like 24 hours
of being put in.
But a lot, yeah. There's a lawsuit alleging that the guards are bringing in the fentanyl to the jail. My client died of fentanyl in 2021, and he knew how to do the drugs. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a guard gave him the drugs. He was immediately brain dead. And yeah, and there's a lot of moms involved who have lost their kids due to like overdoses in the jail, and they thought, you know, oh, my kid's going to go to jail, at least they're going to be off of drugs, they're going to, you know, detox and then hopefully get some help, and then they die.
Yeah.
So it's really bad. And in this entire conversation of, you know, the city and county's new plan, Chief Kazmar even like used the words cause discomfort to force people into diversion programs, which is the opposite of anything if you know about mental health. But not one word has been said at all about the jail deaths in this like plan to incarcerate more houseless folks.
Yeah. I'm
So
like,
it's
yeah,
just-
cool. Build a new jail, because Peanut County does really good with jails. Like,
Right,
really, really
exactly. And there's been zero accountability. I mean, a guy was tased to death last August. All those guards are still working, let alone not charged.
Mhm.
That's still currently under investigation. Like, you know, Ryan Remington, the cop who shot that guy in the wheelchair, was under investigation for 9 months, and now the charges are dropped. Yeah, so it's pretty bad. And yeah, so our report obviously is, you know, against the building of the new jail, against incarceration in general, and then obviously like a huge part about using policing and incarceration as a way to solve houselessness and drug use.
Totally. I have to go to my next meeting. So I have to sign off.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Just let's be in touch about what you're advocating for, and so
Yeah.
we can too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look forward to sitting down with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have your phone number, but I dropped mine in the chat, so just holler at me.
I texted you.
Oh, you did just now? Perfect. Excellent. Way to get on
See you guys.
that. Dania, did you capture everything from the chat pretty much that needed to be captured?
Just pressed the save chat button right before you said that. Boom, same page. But yeah, I've got it. So sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good to see you all.
Thanks for being here. This was such a good idea, Dania.
Yay.
So smart. Thanks for.
Yeah, thanks for rallying. It was great to see so many people that just rallied and came. So well done. Okay.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.